I'm going to get a little deep in this episode of Vintage Toy Freedom and let you know that sometimes I struggle with my toy collecting hobby. You can see I have a number of figures here, some there, some there. This is just my basement. I have boxes and boxes of G.I. Joes. I have others up on my shelves in my bedroom, as you've seen in other episodes. And sometimes I look around thinking, why do I collect all this stuff? Why all this plastic? Why does this matter? Why is it important to me? Some of it's fun, I'm a comic book fan. I like comic books, so I have all the comic book heroes up there. That's my original He-Man, like the actual one I've had since I was a child. So some of these I've just kind of held on to. Some things I never had as a kid. I never was even aware of Power Lords. And so some of these figures were things I wanted as a child that I never had, and then some are just I never knew they existed, and I just think they're cool. But the big part of it obviously is nostalgia, and I think I've talked to other collectors of comics and toys, and I'm sure the same can be said for baseball cards or I don't know, maybe people who collect other things. But there's that saying that you're no longer a child, so I did away with childish things, and some of us obviously haven't done that. And with comics, I've not really struggled as much because they are an art form. It's literature, it's art, and so there is literary and artistic value to it. Where obviously toys and action figures is more just consumerism, and there is art in a sense to them, but not in the sense of say classic comic book or something like that. So again, I've struggled with that. And I think, the biggest answer, and something that I've heard from other collectors as well, is that it brings us back to a simpler time. So when I'm down here and I'm, opening toys or rearranging them or completing them or whatever, it just reminds me of when I was a kid and I'd play with He-Man or I'd play with G.I. Joe or I'd play with various superheroes and things like that. So there's that nostalgia sense, right? You kind of go back to being a child and if you're having a stressful day, whether it's with, work or kids or bills or just life in general, it's nice to be able to just kind of chill out and go back to your childhood. And, one thing I say is that I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't gamble. I buy toys and comic books. I think that's kind of my addiction. And yeah, I do spend too much money on it, I admit. But a lot of people my age spend money on those other vices that are, harming their body. And so this is, while maybe I'm not making the wisest financial decisions, all my bills are paid and, I'm not doing any damage to my body. And another thing too, and I've said this to other people who spend money on frivolous things, whether it's, alcohol or whether it's clothes or makeup or whatever, everything that I purchase, I can resell. And generally, my approach is I can at least make my money back on something. So anything I buy, all these things, I could sell these. I could list these all on eBay. I could put them on Craigslist. I could take them to a store. I could ask friends. I could sell all this, literally all this stuff today. And some of it make a profit on. I've made profits on certain things. While I do sometimes spend money frivolously on toys and comics, I am also very frugal and I look for good deals. So I'm not going to overpay or pay top dollar for something. I'm going to get a deal on it. So, when I start feeling guilty, I think about that. So you might be wondering, why am I ranting for 4 minutes and 10 seconds about this stuff? Why am I getting deep? Hopefully, I'm sure some of you can connect with this. The reason I bring this up is because this figure here, this Wildcats Grifter figure made by Playmates in 1994, has some nostalgia value. There is some significance to this figure. This is from the comic book Wildcats that was published by Image Comics, and I was a fan. I liked the Wildcats comic book. Grifter was my favorite figure. There was a cartoon. There was a comic book based off the cartoon called Wildcats Adventures. And one time when I think I was 13, I wrote a letter to, or not letter to the editor. I did write a letter, but there's also a contest about who was your your favorite character and why. And of course, I picked Grifter because it was like he was the cool one. And I just put like how he's such a badass and blah 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 whatever. And I actually came runner up in the contest and got some like a few comics or whatever, like a few free issues. And it said that they would announce the winners in the next issue, but I don't think they ever made the next issue. But that was kind of cool. That was a cool thing to have and win. But that's not the entire significance of this figure. The significance of this figure is that my mom bought this figure for me when I was a kid. I guess I was 11 years old. And I thought it was really cool. And my mom didn't have very much money growing up, still doesn't have very much money. So for my mom to buy something like this for me, not as a birthday present or as a Christmas present, just because was rare. It was very, very rare. I mean, I can think of literally one other instance of her doing that, and it was one of the talking Ninja Turtles. It was Leonardo, the one where you pull the kind of the cord in his backpack and he says "Cowabunga." So literally, I can think of two instances where my mom bought me a toy, maybe three. Actually, no, I think probably one of my earliest GI Joe experiences. She bought me a GI Joe. I think it was Roadblock '86. So three instances in my childhood, my mom buying me a toy, not on my birthday, not on Christmas. And I was older in this one. I was 11, so this was, when I have some pretty solid memories. So I had this, and I was really into Wildcats. I was really into Grifter. Thought he was cool, and I had it hanging up on my wall. Just kind of hanging by a thumbtack or whatever. I didn't open it. That's how I just thought it was really cool. I like the card art, everything. And my neighbor friend, who got into trouble, he's always like, "Oh, you gotta open that. Why don't you open it?" And I was like, "No, it's cool. I like it. I want to keep it. I like to display it." And I had as soon as you walked up, because my bedroom was we converted the attic to my bedroom. So you'd walk up the stairs, and like as soon as you walked up the stairs, this was hanging on the wall right there. It was the very first thing you saw. And he, like, for days, weeks, I don't know, was like, "Oh, you gotta open it. You gotta open it." So one day, I come home and I go in my room, and the figure's missing. It's gone. And I instantly knew, yeah, my neighbor friend broke into my house and took it. And he had broken into our house before and taken things like my dad's cell phone and just weird little things. I caught him once trying to break into my house. And he eventually, I don't know, went away to a boys' home. And it's just kind of unfortunate. I mean, he was a good friend of mine growing up in middle school, but he just was, I don't know, always getting in trouble, and sometimes getting me into trouble. So that's the significance of this figure. And so I've not had it since. It was stolen from me 22 years ago or so, 23 years ago. It was stolen from me. Never had it since. And then so I've kind of had an eye on it since I started Vintage Toy Freedom a few months ago, and I finally got one for a decent price. This was $8 shipped. And you can see it's, the card is actually kind of separating. So it's not in the best shape. So it's a perfect candidate to open. So there are the Wildcats, Zealot, Spartan, Warblade, Maul, and Grifter. And one thing I noticed about this is look at all the copy on the back of that card. I mean, up here, it's kind of a background of them, and then of each side of the kind of the good guys and bad guys. And quite a bit of copy about his weapons, which who cares about that? And then there's information about him, more about his gear and kind of who he is. Obviously, you got your copyright information. So, I mean, there were a lot of words on this. Somebody really went to town on that. So as well designed as I think the front of the card is, because it's die cut. I like the card art and the packaging. It's got a collector's card, which it says some of them are randomly autographed by Jim Lee, which I thought that would be pretty crazy if that one was, because I'm going to open it here. As well designed as the front is, the back is just very poorly designed. There's just way too many words on there. But I'm going to open this because again, mine got stolen from me, and I've not had it ever since. This is kind of, reclaiming some of that a little portion of my childhood here as a 34-year-old grown-ass man. And I don't know, will this make my life any better? Probably not, but again, there is a story to this, and for $8, hey, it brings me a little bit of happiness, and $8 is what, like 2 packs of cigarettes, or a 6-pack of beer, or a couple shots, or a couple mixed drinks, which, again, I don't partake in, so if somebody were to judge me that I'm spending $8 on a piece of plastic from 1994 that got stolen from me by my neighbor when I was 11 or 12 years old. Oh, cool, it's got a figure stand, too. Then I'd say, well, I could be spending my money on worse things. And is that a dead bug? That is. That's like a centipede or something. That's disgusting. Has it been living in here this whole time? Gross. You never know what you're going to find. Maybe you have a autographed Jim Lee trading card. Maybe you have a dead centipede. That's why you should open your toys. You never know what's going to happen. So here's Grifter. Remember the Wildcats collector card. I did not get a signed one, so that's okay. So, not disappointed in any way, shape, or form. Just so he's kind of like a Deadpool character, and I mean back then actually Deadpool wasn't like Deadpool is now. He was just kind of a standard villain. I'm not really sure when they made Deadpool this like funny taco guy or whatever he is now. But Grifter was kind of, I don't know. I bet he was probably somewhat of an influence on the character development of Deadpool. His name is Cold Cash. He was a petty crook. Equally quick with a gun or punchline, the Grifter is a guy you want on your side when there's trouble brewing or demonites on the loose. So, yeah, so he's like kind of a smart aleck kind of guy. So he's pretty cool, you know. He's got his, I mean, that's a very 90s haircut, kind of bleach blonde, spiky. I'm surprised they don't have very much articulation at the knees and the elbows. He's got his jacket is molded, and you can see it's kind of been, I don't know if it's discolored normally, if that's just over time. I like the detail on that unbuckled belt there. So here, let's make some room for this guy. Let's scoot over these He-Man figures, Gwildor and Stinkor. This would be Grifter. That would be his He-Man name. Masters of the Universe name. Alright, he's got some guns here. He's got a weird gun. He's got a handgun. He's got a rifle. And he's got like some kind of Zach Morris style flip phone. Again, this was 1995, so cell phones were very different than they are today. But he's got Snake on there. Let's get that dead bug over there. So let's see. This is a electro discharge pistol. The particle accelerator. This is a custom Carabim energy blaster. This is a high-powered stun bolt rifle. And this is a halo communicator and allows them to hail the other Wildcats in a time of crisis. And then there's the Wildcats battle base. So, let's see. Let's give him this gun. It's better. Wouldn't it be something if I broke him? For all this talk and kind of nostalgia. But yeah, you know, this is cool. I'm glad to kind of have this because it has that story, you know, behind it. And now I finally have it back in my collection, albeit opened. I doubt anybody's going to steal it this time, but you never know. I think there'd be more valuable things to steal. Alright, this stand is kind of weird. He doesn't have articulation at the knees, so it's kind of hard to... Pretty sturdy figure, though. I will say that. I mean, it's Playmates, so it's, you know, kind of the Ninja Turtles. Definitely more Ninja Turtles than Star Trek The Next Generation, that's for sure. Yeah, the peg is, like, too small for his foot, so he doesn't stand on there very well. How hard of a thing is that to get right? Apparently very hard. There we go. Alright. And yeah, his weapons are kind of too small for his hands, or his hands are molded weird, but anyway. So there's Grifter from Wildcats. Mr. Cold Cash, the petty criminal. So thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. I know I got a little bit deep here, and this ran kind of long. It's going to top 15 minutes, but I don't know, I like to talk a little bit more than just about toys, about the hobby in general and some of the psychology behind it, some of our experiences behind it, and try to make things a little bit interesting. And share in the comments. Let me know. Do you have any, what are your reasons for collecting toys? Do you have anything that does make you feel better? Maybe you have a bit of an addictive personality, as I do, and this is how you cope with that, or do you just like toys, or they're just cool? So, anyway, thanks for watching, and I definitely hope I hear from other fellow collectors and learn a little bit about them and their stories.